pull up a chair. This is Off the Back Porch. Off the Back Porch with Sandy and Boomer is brought to you in part by Country Village Sporting Goods. Everything you need to get in the woods, the water, or to the camp is at Country Village Sporting Goods. Jason Hardy State Farm. Like a good neighbor, Jason Hardy at State Farm is there. And Larry's Pizza in El Dorado, home of the Double Pizza Parade.
20 plus years of bringing you the most important and latest information with local happenings, news, sports, opinions, and probably an attempt at humor. Also brought to you in part by Davis Farms Country Market. For farm to table fresh, it's Davis Farms Country Market. Cook's Body Shop. Chances are it will happen. And when it does, look to Cook's. Murphy Arts District. For the latest information on concerts and events, go to eldomad.com.
Recorded live from Main Street Pizza in historic, beautiful downtown El Dorado, Arkansas. With a history of being the voices you trust. This is Off the Back Porch with Boomer and Sandy. Or Sandy and Boomer. Or two old guys you've known for a long time, whatever. And now your hosts, Troy, Boomer, Barrios, and B.A. Sandy Sanford.
Hey, welcome back for more of Off the Back Porch with Sandy and Boomer. And Boomer, we've been just going through political candidates today.
It's been
just
a political day,
chewing them up, spitting them out. I mean, just
well, you have.
Again, I want to explain, and I've done this every segment so far. So if it sounds repetitive to you, I get it. We offered a particular advertising package to, I think, every candidate who's running for office. Some candidates turned that down, just like some chose not to participate in the debate. And some candidates chose to do that ad package. And as one of the byproducts of it was, we will have you come on and do a segment on the podcast between the day you sign that paper and Election Day. Well, today is that day. The final podcast before the primary election. And so Robert Rushing was one of those people. We had four candidates in particular, Robert, Rico Robertson, Tanya Allen, and Ryan Wolf. We extended an invitation to Ryan. We actually changed the schedule for him, and then something came up and he couldn't be here. So I get it. Life happens between 9 and 5, 8 and 5. So, but as that's being said, thank you for coming on the show.
Thank you for inviting me.
So let's get right down to it, and that is, tell us the most embarrassing thing you've ever done, and leave out no details.
Pass.
Yeah, I said that to someone one time.
My attorney is not present.
There you go. I said that to someone who's going to be on the podcast with us one time, and their answer was great. He said, "You first."
Yeah, that was great.
So I did tell the most embarrassing thing that I could tell that I've ever done, and it was plenty embarrassing. My wife and I were talking last night, and she said, she said, "I'd look at you and say, statute of limitations hasn't been by on that yet. I can't talk about that."
Yeah.
So, Robert, you are the city attorney for the city of El Dorado, and you're running for re-election.
Yes.
I've yet to figure out why.
So is my wife,
Yeah.
or she's failed to figure it out as well.
That's a joke. I mean, obviously you have a heart to serve, and so let's talk about your service to the city of El Dorado. 1994, is that when you started at the fire department?
That's when I started as a paid firefighter. In the past, the city of El Dorado had a fire reserve, kind of like the police reserve now. Mm-hmm. I wasn't sure about this firefighting idea.
Yeah.
And so I'd met with the police chief, the fire chief, and he told me about that. And so I actually did serve as a reserve or a volunteer for about 5 years before that.
Oh, wow. Okay.
94 is when I started as a paid
when
member of the department.
When you actually started getting paid to run into burning buildings.
Right.
Yeah. Not sure the pay was enough.
It's a great job. I loved it. No regrets.
So you are a fireman, and then you decided, you know what? I also want to be an attorney. How'd that work out? How did that get in your head?
Well, that got in my head. At the time I was there, I was blessed. Actually, my father-in-law was mayor before, and he had put in a policy where the city would help cover college expenses. And so I took advantage of that and got my degree at South Ark, and then went over to SAU Magnolia and got a degree. And then I was like, well, now what do I do?
Yeah.
And I applied to law school, and they let me in, so that's what I did.
And that was Euler.
Euler in Little Rock, right.
And they let you in, and you graduate law school, and 2010 you opened your own firm, is that right?
Well, 2010 is when I passed the bar, and I started with the
That's right.
BAME law firm.
That's right.
Was the name that they went by. They had an office here in El Dorado, and along with Hot Springs, Little Rock, Pine Bluff. And then in 2015, the partners of that firm they were getting older, looking at restructuring, and they offered me a very good deal to take over the office in El Dorado as my own practice. So 2015 is when I actually started Rushing Law Firm.
Okay. And then when did you retire from the fire department?
2017.
Okay.
So 7 years as an attorney firefighter. That was a great blessing from Ken Bame, a guy I've got great respect for of the Bame Law Firm. As we were getting serious about me getting hired on, I said, there's something we need to talk about. I said, I'm like this close to being able to get a pension.
Yeah.
And, can we work something out? And he's like, yeah. Here's your cell phone. Here's your laptop. Do it.
Go for it. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So just be available.
That's it.
Yeah. So, of course, I'm sure that you were being asked, every coworker had a legal question to ask you at some point, right?
Always. And some people's spouses now.
Yeah. So, then in 2022, you ran for city attorney for El
Correct.
Dorado. I think you were unopposed, weren't you?
I ended up being unopposed. There was initially a Democrat candidate, and she took a federal job and had to withdraw from the race. And so ultimately it was unopposed.
And so you were sworn in 2023.
Correct.
And now you're up for re-election.
Election.
And let's talk about the debate that we hosted. Again, much like in the mayoral race, y'all were not asked the same questions. You were asked different questions, and with a chance to rebut. But one of the questions asked of you, if I recall, was there have been some people who are critical of you, saying that you butt in, you put your nose in where it doesn't belong, that you're like having a ninth unelected alderman in the city.
I recall that question.
Yeah, I'm sure you do. I'm sure you do. How did you answer that night?
Yeah, I answered that night, best I recall, is that if you'll go back and actually listen to the recordings of the council meetings, is that the overwhelming majority of times I speak out in the council meetings when I'm asked a question.
Yeah.
You don't ask me a question, I usually don't involve myself. There are a few occasions when I have interjected myself that I saw, even going back listening, when they were about to do something incorrectly. Like here most recently, in January, they were looking at adjusting when they have council meetings. And they were going to do that by motion. But the council meetings are established by ordinance.
Yeah, you got to have an
And
ordinance
so
for
you
that,
have to do an ordinance in order to change that.
which requires
And so
three readings.
I pointed that out, right, and that's part of it. Also, as a part of that answer, I made a statement. That, well, I do have opinions,
Yeah.
but I don't interject my personal opinions into the meetings. And in fact, you can go back and listen. Some things I've thought about since then that I didn't bring up. When they upped the bid limit to $35,000 from $5,000, I answered questions about any legal advice. I didn't offer my personal opinion because I wouldn't have supported that. Going to one council meeting a month, I've given them legal advice. I don't support that, but there's been no personal interjection as you shouldn't do this or anything like that. I try to stick with giving them, like I say, legal advice on the rules, so that things are done correctly.
So, I think First of all, that question that was posed to you, and again, I take full responsibility for every question because ultimately it was my decision whether these questions would be asked or not. And that was one I felt like was important. And you didn't have any knowledge of that question ahead of time.
I did not. I anticipated something along those lines because I've heard those comments.
Go back and watch the debate, and you can tell he was not anticipating that question. He's like, "Oh wow, okay." But I would disagree with something in the question. Is like saying you were an unelected 9th alderman. You're not unelected. You are elected. Now
Right.
you're not an alderman.
I'm not an alderman,
But you are elected. And
Right.
I think that as far as voters go, they want to know that you are the one that we elected for this position. And
Right.
so how much does that play into do you allow yourself to get bullied by other council members or by the mayor?
I would say not, and I believe they would agree with you. And I think that's part of the problem is that integrity part of my slogan that's out there. I'm going to do what I think is right, not to benefit me because it's the right thing to do. And in fact, sometimes doing the right thing may get you something like a Challenger. That's okay. I'm going to keep doing the right thing, and as long as people support that, we'll keep moving forward.
So I've asked you this previously. You're working your butt off for a $22,000 a year job. Why?
Because I love this town, and we need to do better. I mean, doing things right. Going back to when I say I interject myself to do things right. If things were done right, a playscape wouldn't be closed. Okay? We need more transparency, I think, in council meetings. The last meeting, I wasn't there, is when I was on vacation. But they approved a $800,000 purchase with almost no discussion in that meeting. Hopefully there was some discussions. They knew everything ahead of time, but that should really be discussed in the meetings. And that's what I've been trying to push for, is let's do things right. Let's have the discussions where the discussions are supposed to happen and move forward, correct these mistakes.
Now, as a member of the media, I am all about Sunshine Law and Freedom of Information Act.
Correct.
All about them. And have fought, sometimes to my detriment, for those. And it wasn't here in El Dorado. I was living in a city, and I was walking the aisle of a grocery store, and there were 3 city council members standing there
Having a meeting?
discussing some things. And I just walked up and just stood there with them. Mm-hmm. And they're like, "What are you doing?" I said, "There's only 5 council members.
Y'all can't have a
Y'all
majority.
can't have 3 of you standing here discussing city business.
You can't even go eat dinner together.
without notifying the media ahead of time." Here I am.
Right.
And that didn't get me any friends, I promise.
I understand that.
I stopped another city council meeting with a phone call to a federal judge. Just said, "Hey, they're about to violate the Sunshine Law, and I need an injunction right now."
Yeah.
And he was like, "Done." And by the time that was back when we had bag phones.
Wow.
Had bag phone. I walked back into the meeting where they had taken a recess, and I just looked at the mayor and said, "If you want to call, that's fine, but I have an injunction that you cannot have this meeting." And so what it was is they were trying to go into executive session to talk about things that don't belong in executive session.
Right.
And so that didn't make me a lot of friends. You know?
Right.
So, but I am a firm believer that even if the public doesn't want to come and be a part of that circus that sometimes those kind of meetings are, they do expect the media to be there, and they do expect the media to report what happened. And, you know, my group, my staff, JW can tell you this. I told him, I said, "We do not have an agenda. We do not play gotcha politics. We don't play gotcha games. We're not investigative journalists. I am not an investigative journalist. Hell, I'm not even a journalist, you know, by the standards. But I know it sounds cliche because Fox News uses it, but we truly do believe we report, you decide.
Right.
And that's how. So you're never gonna upset me by talking about transparency. So there are things that I have chosen over the years not to report that took place in open meetings because, in my estimation, it would do more harm than good.
Right.
But I would also always say there were other topics discussed we didn't cover in this article. And if anybody wanted to call me and ask me, I'd been happy to tell them. But there were things that.
I'm Dr. Steve Smart. I spent my career here in El Dorado, seeing daily the importance of a strong local hospital. I see neighbors having emergencies, families needing care, and seniors who depend on services close to home. Right now, rising costs are putting pressure on hospitals everywhere. That's why I support a 1/2 cent sales tax that creates dedicated funding for our hospital. Every dollar stays right here. Vote yes for the 1/2 cent sales tax. El Dorado deserves strong local health care.
Bad things happen, and of course, they never happen at the right time. Maybe it's just a little bump and cosmetic damage, or it's turned into a huge insurance claim and you just don't know where to go next. That's why so many of your neighbors and friends call on Cook's Body Shop in El Dorado. From the minor to the major, Cook's Body Shop is in your corner. Need someone to help you deal with insurance? Look to Cook's. Need advice on what to do next? Look to Cook's. Need a free estimate? Look to Cook's. Bad things are going to happen, and when they do, look to Cook's.
Rated the #1 course in Arkansas by Golf Week, Mystic Creek is truly a hidden gem, complemented by a modern clubhouse, complete with panoramic views. It also features a fully stocked pro shop and Mystic Grill, serving contemporary American cuisine and Southern classics. Mystic Creek promises an unforgettable experience.
Experience, courage, common sense. All of these are traits we want in any elected position, but especially in the man we will pick as our next sheriff. Michael Fife hasn't just been in law enforcement for 30-plus years. He's the one who answers the call in the middle of the night, putting himself last and Union County first, looking folks in the eye, doing what's right, standing up for all of us. Vote for Michael Fife for Union County Sheriff.
Everybody loves a parade, and Hilarious Pizza throws parades all week long. Bring the family in for your favorites, or explore the variety that Hilarious Pizza offers. Come join us at Hilarious Pizza for the greatest parade ever.
Perfect example. I'm covering a city council meeting one time, and an engineering firm had come in. This city had a river that ran through the middle of it. Beautiful, scenic spot. And they had kind of made their niche in purchasing or acquiring old church bells, big old, bells. And they built these little towers along the river with a walk path so that people could see these bells. And they'd have a historic plate on it talking about where it came from. Well, this engineering firm came in there and they laid a map out on the a rendering of the river. And they had those. Remember those things from Sunday school? They were plastic, and they would just statically stick to the board. That's what they were. They were like those Sunday school plastic things, right? And so they're putting those bells along that walkway. A city council member who was vice mayor, she said, "We can't have all them bells right there. It's too conglomerated." I did not report that. Okay. That there was no way to put that in the story without making her just look foolish.
Yeah.
Right.
She just misspoke.
It's coagulated.
Yeah, that's what it is. It's coagulated, Boomer. You stick with that. We'll get back to you shortly. So, however, the couple of meetings later, the mayor cussed me out with every word you could think of, and put some others together I didn't even know went together.
Conjugated some stuff.
Yeah. He junctioned me on some, and I typed every word and I printed every word, and to the point to where he's like, I don't give a F if you print every effing thing I say. You sorry MF. I typed it all out, and
Lost his.
Oh yeah. And the next meeting he said, I'm going to start this meeting by telling y'all I just left my pastor's house. We prayed. I'm going to keep my temper, and I owe an apology.
Yeah, you think?
I didn't want an apology.
You think?
But
Right.
but you don't get to do that, and so. But transparency is a big issue, especially to those of us in the media. We should take that seriously.
Right.
And again, even if the point means that you're not going to get invited to that dinner party, even if that means you're not going to get invited to the fish fry. As a member of the media, we choose this life, and we have a responsibility to it, which is what it sounds like you're saying as well. You chose this career.
I did.
You chose this path to be city attorney, so you kind of have a responsibility to it.
I do, and that's how I see it.
Really hard question here. Do you think it helps or hurts your campaign that you have two beautiful daughters? I mean, they're your best asset.
Oh no, they are next to, of course, my beautiful, loving wife as well. So let's don't forget that.
Yeah, absolutely. They no, I did tell him one day. I was like, "Those are your daughters?" And he's like, "Yeah." I was like, "Yeah, good thing they took after their mom, right?"
Yeah,
he was
absolutely.
Like, he said, "Yes, absolutely,
absolutely.
100%." And they. No, I have noticed that your campaign has been a whole lot of your family. One of the things that you
Correct.
said during the debate that I didn't know, and that is outside of a family member, you pretty much self-funded your campaign.
I am all self-funded outside of one family member.
So again, why?
Good for you.
Yes, good for you.
Yeah.
Absolutely good for you. You keep telling me things that makes me question your sanity, though.
I understand that, and I question it sometimes myself. But as I say, I want to help keep things improving and staying on the right track.
Yeah.
Well, Robert, somebody that doesn't know you and hasn't been around you, obviously you've been here for a long time, but just they're looking at your name and your opponent's name. What separates you from the pack? What is different about you? Y'all were both
everything.
attorneys.
Well, I think that may be the only thing that we're similar about. As I've said at other meetings and at the debate, I'm a lifelong resident of El Dorado. Mm-hmm. My family is here. Seeing this town prosper and do right is important to me, mm-hmm. along with 16 years of legal practice. Mm-hmm. Sometimes you don't know until you've learned, I don't know.
Uh-huh.
And
the unknown unknown.
Right. And so I've run into that enough. But people who know me, who have worked with me in the practice of law, they know if I tell you something, it's going to be right. That mm-hmm. I've spent the time to look at it, research it, mm-hmm. and it's going to be right. I was in a meeting yesterday with an attorney. He's been an attorney for 40 years, but he had this odd situation. He's like, look, I want you to look at this and give me your input. That people I practice with have respected me for my one. I don't think I'm smarter than the next guy, but I'll outwork you.
Okay.
I had to simplify some of this stuff for myself, but mm-hmm. I'll work at it till I get it right. And so I think my experience, my dedication to this city. I hadn't lived in a dozen places over the past few years.
Okay.
I've lived in El Dorado, Arkansas, along with my family, and I'm dedicated to El Dorado. And there's no one pulling my strings, as the question was asked.
Okay.
I'm going to do what's right.
Sure. Well, that's what you would only hope for.
Yeah. Are you a grammar Nazi?
A grammar Nazi? No.
Yeah.
I am.
I worked for Bill Nolan, and let me just tell you,
he is.
You watch grammar.
He was,
and punctuation, but he had a good point, and it was always a comma misplaced can change the entire meaning mm-hmm. of a sentence, and that back in school they don't teach this anymore either. We talk about cursive, they don't teach, and this and this. Here's what they don't: diagramming sentences.
Yeah.
No.
Listen, I had legal pads. Stacks of legal pads where I'm diagramming sentences out on contracts because let me tell you how I learned. First time I ever had a contract that I needed Mr. Nolan to approve, I go in there and I was like, yeah, Bill, here's that contract we were talking about. And he's like, where's your notes? I was like, I read it, but he chunked it back across that desk at me. He said, don't ever bring me that shit again. Mm-hmm. That's his words. Let me bring that shit again. You
Right.
read that contract. You tell me what you like and don't like before you ever bring it over here.
Right.
Yes, sir. And from that day forward, I just became a student of contracts, and I pretty much I would show up over there with a rider or an addendum already typed up, and say I don't like this and I don't like this, so I've already typed up an addendum. But yeah, diagramming sentences is a lost art. But again, a comma here.
Words mean words.
Words mean things.
Yeah.
You know, so that's one of my favorites. I've been saying that to my kids since they were born. Words mean things. My 9-year-old told me the other day, you know, the thingy. I was like, stop.
No.
I do not know what the thingy is.
Or
Okay?
the whatchamacallit.
You know. No, I don't know.
No, I don't.
No, I don't. I need you to explain it to me.
Right.
If you need to take a breath to get your words, take a breath and get your words. But don't tell me the thingy. You know, so, but I had a lawyer one time. He's like, dude, I probably get 300 of these contracts a year. I've never gotten an addendum on one of them. I said, well, too bad for those other 299.
Yeah.
I said, because here's where I have an issue. And I told him, and it was real simple. Contract basically said, hey, we want you to become an affiliate of, and I think it was the Sean Hannity show. And it said, if someone else is using Sean Hannity's likeness and advertising in your city, we expect you to remedy that. And I'm like, I don't own that likeness.
Not my job.
And, you know, I said, my issue, they said, well, what we really mean is we expect you to notify us. Then put that in the contract.
Right.
But
Say
that's not what you
mean.
said. What you said was you wanted me to remedy it.
Right.
Well, what if this has to go to the Supreme Court? You know, you want me to carry that dime? No. And he was like, man, Sandy, we're, you know, and I told him, I said, look, if everything goes right, you or I, neither one are ever going to look at this contract again. Contracts are not written for the normal.
No.
They are written for the abnormal. And when you got to go back and look at it, you know something's already amiss, or you wouldn't be looking at the contract.
Plus, I work for an
Correct.
Ivy League lawyer.
Yeah, my boss graduated from Yale Law.
Right.
You know, so and that's what I loved. There was a time, Robert, we were on the phone. We were negotiating with Sporting News. They had a full 24/7 format for sports and sports wagering, which in Hot Springs was a big thing, right? And this was for our Hot Springs station. But their contract was terrible. It was horrible. And to the point to where I'm going over it, and I'm 6 pages in on an addendum. And I'm like, you know what, wait, stop.
We need to rewrite this thing.
You know, this is a 13-page document, and I've already written 6 pages of addendum. This is a problem. So we're having our annual managers meeting in Pass Christian, and we're sitting there, and they got this guy on speakerphone, this attorney for Sporting News. And I don't remember what we were talking about in the contract. And finally, he says to Mr. Nolan, look, if I wanted to know how to run a couple little radio stations out in the country, I'd come talk to you. But leave law to those of us who know it. And I thought, uh-oh. And
I remember this story.
to Bill's credit, he was very calm.
Yeah.
Paul Starr got up and left the room.
Yeah.
He's like, I think Edwin did too. I think Edwin left the room as well. Like,
Yeah,
nope,
You can hear chairs shoving back.
don't want to be here for this. Bill explained to him that, yes, he does own a couple of little radio stations out in the country.
Just a couple.
As a matter of fact, 28 of them, and
And he had rang the bell at
at New York Stock Exchange. And that he was the chairman of the board of a Fortune 100 company. And oh, by the way, I graduated from Yale and Yale Law.
Right.
And that guy couldn't get off the phone fast enough. No, hold on. We still got to work these questions out. Man, just send me what you wanted to say. So basically, I rewrote the
rewrite
contract,
the contract.
and sent it to him. It was like 4 pages. I
Right.
rewrote the contract, sent it to them. They signed off on it. No questions. There was probably a big red sticker on that file folder that says, "Don't even ask."
Don't ask. Yeah. This
just
is theirs.
accept it. Don't
this
don't
is
touch
their
it.
contract.
Yeah. That's
But words do matter, and I appreciate
They
you
do.
answering that question. That being a part of a city for a long time carries weight. if you're doing the right thing or pushing for the right or pushing for the right thing is what I'm saying. There's probably people in New York City that have been there a long time that don't deserve to be mayor. Fight.
Are some that they just drop in.
Yeah.
That don't deserve to be mayor. But yeah. Well, Robert, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you for coming on with us. And again, if any of the questions bothered you at the debate, they were mine. They were 100% mine. I take full responsibility and credit. So that's what I told people. I said, I'll take blame or credit, whichever one you're handing out. So, but I think as a matter of fact, it was somebody from your camp that walked over to me and said, those questions were tough, but they were fair.
I agree. I agree with that.
My thing is if you put your name on the ballot, you need to be ready to answer questions.
Yeah.
And it's a whole lot harder for an incumbent because you have a record we can go by.
Yeah. Right.
So that's what makes newcomers sometimes little darlings because they don't have a record.
Right.
That we can't look back and say, hey, what were you thinking?
At least not in public that you can find.
Right. Right. Exactly right. So again, thank you. We appreciate you coming on. We're going to take a break. When we come back, we'll have more of Off the Back Porch right after this.
With a history of being the voices you trust, this is Off the Back Porch.